Do you guys remember when I said Dave Filoni would make a better game designer than the showrunner? I probably think that's still true, given a lot of his shows are very video gamey. The Sad Batch, for example, being a rip-off of Republic Commando, seems like it would make a, serviceable action-adventure squad-based shooter. They probably would have been more believable as video game characters than characters in a television show. But for the life of me, if Dave Filoni decided to be a video game designer, maybe in some alternate reality, he's the head of Lucasfilm Games, what he absolutely cannot do is churn out licensed shovelware. When it comes to tie-in games, a lot of them range from bad to mediocre, and there are some standouts, like Pixar's Cars, which I remember playing and enjoying. It's especially impressive that they actually used scrapped assets from the film, and made a solid kids racing game that surprisingly had every cast member from the film. Before the abortion that was Cars 2, Cars the video game was the canon sequel to the movie. I don't know. That was one of my favourite licensed games growing up. The Nintendo Wii, however, was known for a lot of throwaway crap. There was a terrible quality control ratio. The actual Nintendo-made games were actually good, like Wii Sports or New Super Mario Bros. But we're not here to talk about that. Instead, we're talking about something that not even the hardcore Filoni groupies try to defend, and that's the shitty games that came out for the Clone Wars. When it comes to consoles, there's around 4 of them, including Jedi Alliance, Republic Heroes, and the Lego game. The Lego one was probably the only good one based on memory, but that's not the topic of today's video. Since I've concluded all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars, there's nothing left to do, except rip on the external stuff. There were novels and comics, and most notable of all, the games. So that's right, bitches, I'm back for more. This time I'll be ripping into the shit that nobody likes, starting with Lightsaber Duels, a fighting game released for the Nintendo Wii in November 2008 to coincide with the first season of the show. There was also the game released for the Nintendo DS on the same day, known as the previously mentioned Jedi Alliance. In my spree of TCW games, that'll come next. Now I imagine the only people playing games like these are die-hard fans of the show anyways. So let's see what happens when someone who already despises Filoni's Cowboy show decides to talk about a game that even the show's fans don't like. Lightsaber Duels is the second Star Wars fighting game ever, released after Masters of Teras Kasi, or however the fuck you're supposed to pronounce it. Today's game didn't have much to live up to after that broken disaster of video game programming. So you might be wondering if Lightsaber Duels is better? Yeah, of course it's better, but that's not saying much. According to Wikipedia, most gaming websites gave the game mixed to bad reviews. GameSpot was the highest with giving it an average score. Geez, I'm excited already. Let's see what this game is about. Well, first criticism, there isn't much, and it's not quality or quantity, because this game lacks both. This game is literally a shitty compilation of shit from the show, instead of making its own story. I know Republic Heroes did that later on, but I'm thinking that this game also probably could have told its own story, detached from the show, because you're better off just watching the show. But since this time we're playing the show instead of watching it, let's see what we get. I opted to enter the campaign, and who do we play as first? Yeah, Ahsoka Tano, Filoni's favourite underage stripper. Ugh. I am so done with this game, and I haven't even started fucking playing. This is the tutorial stage, which makes sense, but the thing is, the controls are too overcomplicated. The tutorial stage is in a context of Anakin teaching Ahsoka lightsaber tricks or whatever, but it's fucking boring. Specific combos are not easy to remember, plus, you probably won't even use most of what the game allows you to do. I just want to put in a little disclaimer that I'm not a fan of fighting games. Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter aren't my forte, so I may not be the best judge of this game, but let me say that this game isn't satisfying to play at all. I got sick of playing it 20 minutes into the campaign. Going back to the tutorial, it's just a slow drog that teaches you how to press the A button. I decided to power through the whole tutorial, which was incredibly drowse-inducing, and then afterwards, we finally get to play the game. So with that being said, The levels, or battles, duels, whatever, are just recycled scenarios from the show that showcase lightsaber fights. The first that they show is Anakin Skywalker versus Asajj Ventress on Teth, as seen in the Clone Wars movie. This game was far from made with the most interesting scenarios. With a game like this, maybe they should have waited until the show got more seasons to base scenarios off of. Refining the design, as well as getting scenarios like Osama bin Vizsla vs Maul, would have been cool. I don't know. Whenever a game like this releases, it ages poorly since it was released in the early stages of the show. With that being said, however, our first real fight with Ventress is a drog. Let me say firsthand that your arm is going to get real tired from swinging. Dodging and jumping are mapped on the same button, and it's incredibly awkward. But basically how the game works is that you fight your opponent with the best 2 out of 3 amount of rounds. So you can pretty much only lose a round once. Since I forgot the more complex controls, my strategy ended up being to slash with the Wii remote on a constant basis and hope my AI component won't be able to catch up. It's the most flawed strategy ever, but I just wanted to get the fights over with. The only thing I liked was the attention to detail with naming combos. One of Ventress's attacks was called, quote, Exar Kun's Assault. So ironically, the game designers or whoever was responsible knew more about the expanded universe than phony Filoni did. I actually don't know how involved Filoni was with any of the tie-in games, but it's out of character for him to know anything about Exar Kun aside from a throwaway reference in Knights of the Old Republic, provided he even played that to begin with. This game is so dull. I had to play some music to get through the whole thing, and even then, I had to finish the game up a second time. Do you want to know how long the game's campaign is? Well, it takes around 1 hour, and I wish I was joking. An hour is too fucking short, but I guess I'm not too surprised since the only shit they had to go off of was the movie in season 1, I guess. The whole campaign is playing as either Anakin, Obi-Wan or Ahsoka, and fighting the main bad guys in the early show, like Count Dooku, Asajj Ventress and General Grievous. And then at the end, you get an extra boss fight with a battle droid equipped with lightsabers. A character who did not appear in the show. Wow, they had to fill the last level with something that wasn't in the show? Then why the hell couldn't the game just be new scenarios? Wouldn't a better idea for a Clone Wars game be a story that bridges the gap between Attack of the Clones and the Clone Wars movie, since the two don't take place back to back, and there's some time to fill? Lots of tie-in games are prequels to the movie, like Transformers Dark of the Moon or Terminator Salvation the game. Why is it I'm getting sidetracked with thinking about what the games could have done? Well, it's because this game is just a shitty cash grab to tie into the show. There's a lack of content, game design is uninspired, and you might as well just watch the show instead of playing the show. The range too is incredibly limited, being based off the movie in season 1, and that was far from enough to sustain the game content-wise. Maybe they could have derived more from the original 6 movies, and that would have been cool, seeing them in the Clone Wars art style. So there honestly isn't a lot to talk about, because the whole game is very samey. Fight against your opponent in a duel. While it is more playable than Masters of Teras Kasi, I don't think the way they used the Wii Remote and Nunchuck for the controls was well done. Playing as the same 3 characters for the campaign, I also thought was stupid. Couldn't they have a level dedicated to everyone on the roster? Which, speaking of which, there's not many. Aside from the characters already mentioned, there's Mace Windu, Kit Fisto and Plo Koon, but you gotta unlock them through challenges or whatever. And there was no way in hell I was going to waste my life away unlocking those 3. I guess the arenas were sort of okay, with a little bit of interactivity with the environment and extra characters that would come in, but that's about it. I honestly did not have a lot to talk about. There's hardly anything to this game. So basically the verdict. I give this game a 2.5 out of 10. And the reasons why is a lack of content, clunky controls, samey gameplay, and not a lot of replay value. Honestly, I'd imagine Republic Heroes was more of an insightful purchase, because at least that is a new adventure. This game is barely an improvement over Masters of Teras Kasi, or Teräs Käsi, whatever. I'm JJ Plagiarisms, And until next time, what are stories but mystery boxes?
Under the mountain.